the people that are the most affected are the content farms. So you're seeing a small number of sites being accountable for the majority of rankings that have been lost. Especially, sites seeing more than 50% drops, 75% drops. I think the Google engineers are talking about one site, Suite 101, that had like a 94% drop. So in reality, the update was made to target very specific sites. But not all content farms are equal, and how do you really determine quality is another question. Because we've all been to the bookstore, Barnes & Noble, and seen a whole shelf filled with books like Investment Banking for Dummies or something like that, right? Is that a high-quality book? Probably not. It's probably your entry-level book. Yet that still has value to somebody just getting on board. So to talk about high quality, is kind of a misnomer. There's different demands for different levels of quality. What people are really mean when they say low quality results is they don't mean that from an academic standpoint, that this isn't original academic research that's citable. What they mean is it's low quality in that there's a lot of advertisements. I wouldn't trust this site with my credit card. It looks like just words thrown up together, because to try to target search traffic. So, if the entire site just exists for SEO, it's a global directory of everything, you've got every keyword on there. Like Mahalo, which has a page specifically about an individual coupon of 1-800-coupons or something like that. That's a page for a coupon. So they've got basically a page for everything, for every keyword. And that's what people mean when they say low quality. Google is very adamant about the fact that they don't penalize individual sites. And that's kind of their mantra, and they keep saying it over and over and over again. But the thing is that they may not start out beforehand by penalizing the site. But what they do is they say, all right, this is an algorithm we think may offer an improvement in our search experience. In order to test whether it offers an improvement in that experience, we're going to, let a bunch of humans look at it and ask them, do you trust this site? Do you think it's authoritative? Do you think it has extensive advertisements? How do you feel about the results? So they verify their algorithm with human verification. And what it's basically doing is cherry-picking the algorithms that are sorting out the content farms. The engineers may not even know why the algorithm is sorting out the content farms. As long as you're creating an algorithm that aligns with the desired user experience, they're happy. So, in terms of how to react to the new landscape, basically earlier on, before there were all the content farms and the article mills and people coming up with websites of everything, global directories. Before all that happened, a big website was a signal of quality. CNN, millions of pages, big airline, millions of pages. So to have 1 million pages on your site was a status symbol, if you will, for the Google algorithm. But that kind of got built into the algorithm. And so somebody said, hey, big sites are getting an advantage with search. Why don't we make a big site just for that reason? And then so everyone starts making a big site. And so that's really what you see all the time with Google. The more people know about how to game the system, the more they're going to try to game the system. And in information retrieval, that's a problem called adversarial classification, where whatever classification you make up, people are actually going to force themselves in places they don't belong because there's an incentive for them to do so. So Google has that problem more so than the company that was in the search engine that was less lucrative in attaining high rankings. But, every aspect of the Google algorithm has people trying to manipulate it. You look at the relevance. People do keyword stuffing. When people talk about the Google algorithm, nowadays they're probably talking about all the different rankings, but the real core algorithm is the PageRank algorithm that is the measure of authority based on how many other people are linking to you. There are other filters after that for trust, because once they said, oh, the best signal a site could send out there is to have a lot of incoming links. Then what the SEO industry set up was link farms. Link farms were before content farms, and so then you have a lot of noisy sites that have real no content, just a lot of links coming in and going out. And then Google has to figure out ways to adapt to that and be able to ignore them or penalize the people associated with link farms. And so then they introduced something called trust rank, which means, well, if you're kind of in a good neighborhood of the internet and or people from a good neighborhood on the internet are linking to you or sites like yours, maybe you're not all that bad like some of the link farms. So Google is continuing to evolve the algorithm, and this is the latest update, which means that having a big site that's a directory of everything is not going to be as much of an advantage. Content's going to be looked at more for the quality as opposed to just the site it sits on. And sites are going to be penalized if they have a large portion of their results that are thin content, not original. Something that's also becoming more important for the results is the fact that content doesn't just live on one web page anymore. Content a lot of times is published with the intent to be syndicated out. People might be scraping it unscrupulously, but people are really planning to try to get their content out to a lot of different websites, whether they're syndicating out links or full articles. And now Google is using H tags to be able to say, well, this is the original article, and other copies you may find on the internet are going to be syndicated versions of that article, so that Google can attribute the original publisher. But at the same time, to give all the credit to the original publisher is unbalanced, because there is a value to aggregating the content and to creating an interface where people can get to the best content. So there's always a balance between the first person who published the article and then the people who actually do the work in actually propagating the content. Of course, we don't want to give all the credit to somebody who republished an article and don't give the original attribution, but we also need to realize that content is distributed through resources other than the original page. And that's a pretty important part of how the web is evolving, and the content is kind of living beyond the page. We see that in social media, blog syndication, and point-to-point syndication as well. And the issue with just churning out content and having content for content's sake or for SEO's sake isn't something that just is affecting content farms and websites that are set up as kind of a media tech SEO play. We're also seeing it in journalism, which people are calling churnalism. Sites like Gawker, which we're trying to compete with on a celebrity basis, are publishing so much more content, and unlike a company like ours with Elle Magazine, where the editors really want to control everything and everything is kind of a vanity project, with Gawker, if there was some ridiculous news story that happens, somewhere in a state far away from here, they'll just write 2 sentences about it, link to the local news story, and then you get to watch the crazy video, and you didn't really care that, you didn't read some long-winded, self-indulgent article by Gawker staff. So Gawker knows what people want. They just want to watch the video, they just want to be able to share it with their friends and have this story. They're a very nimble new media play, and that's what a lot of the traditional media companies are kind of now, because of all this Google Farmer buzz, they're saying, demand media, who are they? Why, how are they making articles for $10 an article? We need to do that. So in reality, I think that a lot of the newspapers, a lot of the media companies and magazines are going to look at demand media and Mahalo and say, how can we do that? Why didn't we think of that? And the ideas of crowdsourcing content. These are some really great things that companies like Demand Media have done. And so we really got to delineate between like a global directory like Mahalo and people who are actually making original content like Demand Media. I think that model is going to grow. So I think that this whole update and the recognition that it's gotten has put a lot more recognition to the models of crowdsourcing, being able to create content without a large staff, and really a different view towards content production, which is following the trends, following the demand, as opposed to trying to revive a legacy brand based on a certain limited amount of content. And it can be tough in order to try to respond to an update like this algorithmically, but over the long term, Google is always trying to follow user experience. So if your site is in line with user experience and you have a good propagation strategy for your content, you should be in good hands for the current and future updates. Thank you.